Welcome back to another episode here on my channel. My name is ChaosMole, and today there is no rest for the wicked, or in this case, no rest for the undead, because just this morning we had a big news regarding Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, and well, now there was another big article released about Techland and Dying Light 2. And this article is by thegamer.com, and wow. This article is kind of in depth. Like, if you want to read this whole article, you can find it on The Gamer. I will actually put the link down in the description, and then you can read this whole article yourself if you so desire. But I already read it, like all of it. I took the time and was reading through it, and I want to give you the TLDR, or well, the TLDR as fast as possible, but as you can see, this is substantial, and it basically shows both sides. It shows developers who talk about this, who are still working at the company and want to stay anonymous because, well, they are fearing for their job, and then they also talk directly to the CEO of the company, Mr. Mashevka. Look, I don't know how to pronounce this game. The CEO of the company from Techland. I'm truly sorry. I'm horrible with names. But what is this article saying? Well, this article is basically saying what we have heard before. The management is absolutely abysmal and makes a lot of stupid decisions. Like says, hey, I want to have this feature. This sounds amazing. Let's use this feature. And then they're working on this feature and they feel like, oh yeah, we have done this feature, we are through with it, let's move on to the next one. Basically, management is coming back, or even like people who have nothing to do with designing the concept of the game or designing gameplay, and say, you know what, I was just kidding, we are actually not doing this, let's do something else. And that also seems to be like the whole design concept, like innovating through irritating. It's like, what? What? Who is doing that? Like, it is so weird. And, well, of course, there are the usual issues with people like saying, too faggot like, right? They're using slurs, which is completely out of position here and out of terms. It's just like, what does that even mean? Like, what? And yeah, they even have more issues with that, right? It's it's unfortunate, really, and yeah, it's not good. There was even apparently one of the leads who blurted out, "At least they knew how to deal with women back then." What the shit, dude? Lost, man. Like, this is just not, like, I know that some people will say, oh, who cares about that? Well, here's the thing, folks. Keep in mind, all those people who are working on these games are human, like you. They're humans too, and they're working in a creative business. Creativity is very important. To be creative, well, you definitely don't need other issues at your working place or whatever you were doing, because they can cloud your mind, and with that degrades the quality of a game in the end. So yes, this is a very important issue, even if you don't understand why people don't want to hear that anymore. Like, I know that some people don't want to. They're like, oh, I don't understand. I mean, he is right? He is right. Like, keep that in mind. Like, if it really, even though it's completely wrong, if it goes down to this is the only thing which works for you, that those people then cannot do their job right, think about that. But the biggest problem is apparently also that a lot of people have problems with what the CEO is doing and saying, and they cannot really go somewhere because the HR lead, which you would normally turn to if you have issues in a company, it's the wife. It's the CEO's wife. And when he got asked, like, hey, is this a problem? Like, isn't this a conflict of interest? The CEO says, no, I don't. My wife is a professional and we have a professional relationship at work. Look, dude, that might be, but let's be real here. The moment you were at home and like your wife hears about those problems, she will probably talk to you and be like, hey, wow, one of those workers came to me and well, it was this and this person who talked privately to me. Man, what a dick. Like, come on, like, no, you cannot be professional there. I'm sorry, that's bullshit. Like, sure, if, let's say, your wife would have worked in the art department, I think you can keep it professional. But if she basically has the job who also oversees a little bit your job and how you conduct, I'm sorry, that just doesn't work. But it isn't not just problems with how people behave in the company. It's also, like, as I said, design decisions and how they have been made. Like, this is actually kind of horrific, where they talked about how to promote the game. And I kid you not, they were apparently like talking about ideas, like another idea that was floated around is by the start of the pandemic was to send out medical test kits. People would test themselves and get results back telling them whether or not they were susceptible to the game's fictional pathogen. Because the kits were for real diseases, though, you might also find out you have something seriously wrong with you. Elsewhere, the team considered working with the United Nations to create a video advertisement. This advert would have a UN spokesperson talk about a place where people are scrambling to survive, fighting over water. And it's like, no, it would reflect what's happening in developing countries as well as Flint in Michigan. The twist, it wasn't a real city at all. Instead, it would be the fictional metropolis from the game. I was like, I know you want to be edgy, but especially in the years of the pandemic, it's like, do you really want to do anything to do where people see even more struggling? Like, I think reality has already enough issues right now that people don't need like those fake news, even if it's just like an advert. It's like, yeah, this is how you start like conspiracies and stuff. Like, that's not necessarily a smart thing to do. The same goes with people they're apparently hiring. This is the section right here, where they are apparently just hiring who has the right papers. Like, even though people have nothing to do with the gaming industry and have absolutely no clue about the gaming industry, they're just getting hired because their resume looks nice. And then they're getting into the company and people are like, oh man, this new blood could actually help us. And then after a few days they realize that the people have absolutely no clue what they are doing. And yeah, it apparently also seems like the turnaround rate at the studio itself is very high. Like, apparently in the last year alone they had about 5% of the people leaving the studio. When you think about this over the last 5 years, right? Then, no, this is actually, I'm sorry, this is in the past couple of months. At least 20 people have left Techland, a studio of 400. That's 5% of the workforce in just over the last few months. I mean, people come and go. That is unfortunate in the industry, and it has multiple reasons. But when maybe like 25 or 30% of your people left throughout development, that's not good. That's far too much. That's not normal. That's absolutely not normal, because it also becomes messy when it comes to development. Like, keep in mind, like, every developer leaves like a footprint in the video game they're working on. And when they move on, somebody else takes over, and sometimes they realize that the person did something very different on how they programmed like certain gameplay elements. Like, it's not like you're putting a car together and the person who is putting this car together can just be swapped out and everyone is like just following this certain pattern to put this car together. That's not how game development works, right? So when you have a lot of turnaround in a studio like this, that's not good. That's not good at all. But it goes on and basically irritates on the same problems that, that the production pipeline changes so quickly, and it's a big problem. So what does that mean? Well, if I read everything, and I have to conclude here, this game is still far away, and if it comes out, it will probably be a mess if it ever comes out. Like, that's basically how it reads right now. And the ambitions seem to be also far too big for this game, right? Like, they had success with Dying Light, and now they just try to be like 5 times better than before. And it seems like that especially the leadership has way beyond ambitions about what is technically even possible. And they don't understand when a developer with like 30 years of experience is coming to them and is telling them, folks, from a technical perspective and what is possible with today's engines and whatnot, we cannot do that. Their reaction seems to be, well, then make it possible. I thought you were the expert here. It's like, oh gosh. And the expert just told you it's not possible. Like, this is just not a good read. Like, this is not a good read at all. I know that some websites I have already seen, like, talking about a picture which is in the CEO's office. It's a woman of color, probably from Africa, sitting completely naked next to a cheater. It's actually an artist thing, and I have seen the picture. You can look it up. I will not show it here because then probably YouTube will nuke my ass. It's a pretty looking picture. Like, it's art, right? But it's alright. But here's the thing: do you have to put that into your office as a CEO? Like, come on, man. You don't have to do that. And I know that people are focusing on that in particular. Right now, I have already seen articles flying around on some bigger news websites where they're talking only about that. And it's like, have you read this article? Have you read this article even? Like, there are so many issues this company has right now, and you are focusing on a naked woman in an animal picture? Come on, man. But yeah, the problem is not the picture. The problem is so much of stuff is going wrong. Like, especially like having your wife as the HR leadership and having your friends even in some of the positions. It's like, yeah, that's a conflict of interest right there. And there are reasons for why you are not doing that, because if something is going wrong, those people have a bigger issue of talking out against you or stopping you in what you are doing. That's why you try to keep everything on a professional relationship at the end. But TLDR, Dying Light 2 is probably still another year or two out. How it will play, we don't know. It definitely doesn't read well. It very much reads like Developer Limbo or even Developer Hell, and maybe at some point might never release. So yeah, that's not a good lookout. But I keep you posted when there is something new coming up. And I thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. And if you're also new to the channel, I would definitely appreciate if you consider a subscription, because then I can also produce more videos for, well, all the important gaming news and other things regarding the gaming industry. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I see you next time.